There are moments in life when the heart knows God exists, but the mind gets tired of waiting. Moments when we believe, pray, do the right thing, and yet still feel like we're walking alone. If you've made it this far, it's no coincidence. This message is for people who love God, but who also feel human. For those who have faith but don't always have strength. For those who stand firm, even if they are tired inside. Today, I want to talk to you about someone who knew God profoundly, but who also knew fear, insecurity, rejection, and waiting. David. When we think of David, many remember the king, the warrior, the brave man. But before the crown, before the victory, before the recognition, David was a forgotten, underestimated, and overlooked young man. David was chosen by God when no one was looking. He was anointed king, but returned to the field to tend sheep. He received a promise, but had to wait years to see it fulfilled. And here appears one of the most difficult tensions in spiritual life, when God has already said yes, but reality has not yet changed. David lived that tension. He knew he had a calling, but he remained in anonymity. He knew God was with him, but he was still persecuted, betrayed, and threatened. He knew who he was, but many times he had to flee to survive. This teaches us something profound from a spiritual and psychological point of view. Having a purpose does not free you from the process. Having faith does not eliminate human emotions. Being chosen does not mean the path will be easy. David cried. David was afraid. David hid in caves. David felt alone. And even so, he never stopped talking to God. David's greatness was not only in his strength, but in his heart. A heart that broke but did not give up. A heart that doubted but returned. A heart that fell but rose with humility. That's why his story is not just ancient. It is deeply relevant today, because many today feel like David before the throne, doing the right thing, trusting, waiting, without yet seeing the result. In this video, we will explore 7 profound teachings from David's life, not from an idealized perspective, but from a human, spiritual, and psychological understanding. 7 truths that can give you clarity, strength, and direction as you go through your own process. Stay until the end. You might not leave with all the answers, but you will leave with a firmer heart to keep walking. Before David was king, he was a shepherd. Before he was recognized, he was ignored. Before he was celebrated, he was forgotten even in his own home. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint the new king, no one thought of David. His father presented all the sons, except him. David was in the field, tending sheep, doing a quiet, repetitive, and undervalued task. And here appears David's first great lesson. God does not see as man sees. While people seek appearance, strength, and visibility, God observes the heart, faithfulness, and intention. Psychologically, this moment reveals something profound. Many people feel invisible not because they lack value, but because they are not yet in the place of exposure. David was not being punished, he was being formed. While no one saw him, David learned to care. He learned to be responsible for the small things. He learned to protect what was entrusted to him. He learned to spend time alone, and in that silence, he developed intimacy with God. Many times we believe that lack of recognition means delay. But in spiritual life, anonymity is often training. David learned to play the harp when no one applauded. He learned to sing psalms when there was no audience. He learned to trust God without witnesses. That strengthened his inner self. From a psychological point of view, David's heart became stable before it became visible. And that is essential. When identity is formed before applause, success does not destroy the soul. Today, many people live frustrated because they feel they are doing the right thing, but no one notices. They work, they strive, they pray, they persevere, and yet they seem invisible. David's story reminds us being seen by God is more important than being validated by the world. Perhaps today your process is similar to David's in the field. Silent, solitary, without external recognition. But that doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're being prepared. The question is not, why doesn't anyone see me? The real question is, what is God forming in me while no one sees me? David was not forgotten. He was chosen in silence. And that silent choice was the basis of everything that would come after. David was anointed king when he was young. God spoke about his future before his reality changed. The promise was clear, but the fulfillment was slow. After the anointing, David was not taken to the palace. He did not receive a crown. He was not presented as king. He returned to the same field, the same routine, the same waiting. Here appears a profound lesson that is often painful to accept. God's promise does not eliminate the human process. From a psychological point of view, this creates great internal tension. When we know something is reserved for us, but we continue to live a reality that does not reflect that promise, the mind enters into conflict. David knew he had been chosen, but he continued to obey his father. He continued to tend sheep. He continued to wait. Later, when he arrived at the palace to serve Saul, David was not treated as king. He was treated as a musician, as a servant, as someone who calmed the pain of another, while his own remained unanswered. And yet David did not rebel against the process. Here is something psychologically very powerful. David did not allow the future promise to destroy his present character. Many people get frustrated because they receive a word, a calling, a conviction, and as time passes, they begin to think something is wrong. But the Bible shows us another logic. God does not accelerate processes just to calm human anxiety. The process is not punishment. It is emotional, spiritual, and mental preparation. David needed to learn to serve before he could govern. He needed to learn to obey before he could lead. He needed to learn to wait before he could decide. When the heart is not ready, the fulfillment of the promise can become a burden. That is why God works first on the inside. Perhaps today you also feel you are living a contradiction. You believe, you trust, you have a promise in your heart. But life is not moving. David's story teaches us that waiting time is not wasted time. It is time for formation. The promise speaks of destiny. The process speaks of character. And God cares for both. If you are in the middle of the journey today, remember this. The fact that it hasn't happened yet does not mean the promise has failed. It means the process is still working on you. Before David faced giants, he was faithful in tasks no one considered important. Tending sheep didn't seem like a path to leadership. It was repetitive, solitary, and unrecognized. But it was exactly there that his character was formed. David protected the sheep when no one was watching. He fought lions and bears far from applause. He took responsibility for something small, but he did it with all his heart. And here appears a key lesson. Faithfulness in the small reveals who you will be when you have more. From a psychological perspective, the small things shape internal habits. They shape discipline, constancy, and responsibility. A person who takes care of the little with integrity develops a solid identity, not dependent on external approval. David didn't tend sheep hoping to be seen. He did it because he understood that what was under his care had value. Later, when David faced Goliath, he didn't improvise. He himself said that God had delivered him before from the lion and the bear. The invisible battles became the foundation of the visible victory. Many people desire great opportunities, but despise the small stages. They get frustrated with the everyday. They get tired of the repetitive. They get discouraged when no one recognizes their effort. But spiritual life shows us another logic. The small is not an obstacle, it is training. Psychologically, when a person learns to be faithful in what seems little, their self-esteem is strengthened in a healthy way. It does not depend on immediate results. It does not break due to lack of applause. It does not get lost when the path is slow. David was not great only for defeating Goliath. He was great because he had already learned to be responsible when no one was watching. Perhaps today, your life feels this way, doing the right thing in things that seem small, simple, or irrelevant. But remember this, God wastes no stage. What seems insignificant today is building an inner strength that will be necessary tomorrow. Being faithful in the small does not delay you, it prepares you. In David's life, there were moments when everything seemed to indicate that the time had come. Saul was persecuting him. The throne was apparently empty. Circumstances seemed to justify quick action. On one of those occasions, David had the opportunity to kill Saul. He was right in front of him. No one would see him. Many even encouraged him to do it. But David did not rush the process. Here arises a profoundly spiritual and psychological lesson. Not everything you can do is something you should do. From a psychological point of view, rushing often stems from anxiety. A tired mind wants to close cycles prematurely. It wants to resolve, control, finalize, even if the inner self is not yet ready. David understood something that many take a long time to learn. If the process is forced, the outcome becomes burdensome. He knew the throne had been promised to him, but he also knew he couldn't take it with his own hands. He did not want to build his destiny on a wrong foundation. David respected God's timing, even when that timing hurt. This teaches us that spiritual maturity is not just knowing how to wait, but knowing how not to rush. Psychologically, when a person rushes processes that are not yet finished, they often carry guilt, insecurity, and fear afterward. Because what was not built with internal integrity eventually takes an emotional toll. David preferred to continue being persecuted rather than betray his principles. He preferred to wait rather than take shortcuts. Today, many people are tempted to accelerate stages, forcing relationships, decisions, projects, results, not out of malice, but out of weariness. But David's story reminds us when God is working on something, rushing can break what is still being formed. If today you feel an urgency to solve something that is not yet moving, ask yourself, am I waiting or am I trying to control? Waiting is not passivity, it is active trust. And David trusted, even when waiting meant continuing to flee. For a long time, David's life did not change externally. He kept fleeing, he kept being persecuted, he kept living in caves. But inside, something very profound was happening. David did not waste the time of difficulty. While he waited, he wrote psalms. While he fled, he prayed. While he was attacked, he reflected. Here appears a key teaching for spiritual and psychological life. God works within you before manifesting visible changes externally. From a psychological perspective, difficult times are spaces for internal reorganization. It is in pressure that true motivations are revealed. It is in waiting that identity is strengthened. It is in silence that the mind learns to trust without control. David learned to process his emotions before God. He did not deny his fear. He did not hide his sadness. He did not mask his pain. The Psalms show a human, sensitive, and honest David, a man who felt anguish, but who did not disconnect from faith, a man who wept, but continued to believe. That is emotional maturity. Many people want God to change circumstances, but they avoid confronting what those circumstances are awakening within. They want quick answers without internal transformation. But spiritual life does not work that way. If God changed everything externally before strengthening the interior, the soul would not withstand what would come after. David needed to develop emotional mastery, humility, and dependence on God before governing others. He needed to learn to listen before commanding. He needed to heal wounds before leading. Perhaps today you also feel that nothing is changing around you, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening. Sometimes God's greatest work is not seen, it is felt. It is felt in the way you react, in the way you think, in the calm that begins to be born where there was once anxiety. If today you are in a process that seems stagnant, remember this: when God is not yet acting for you, He is probably working deeply within you. And that internal work will be the foundation of everything that comes next. Cuando David finalmente comenzó a ser reconocido, su mayor batalla ya no era externa. No eran los enemigos, no eran las amenazas, era el corazón. David tenía poder, tenía autoridad, tenía influencia, pero nunca dejó de recordar de dónde venía. Y aquí aparece una enseñanza esencial. El carácter sostiene lo que el talento inicia. Desde una perspectiva psicológica, la humildad no es debilidad, es estabilidad interna. Una persona humilde no necesita demostrarse constantemente porque su identidad no depende del aplauso. David sabía que su fuerza no venía solo de sus capacidades, sino de su relación con Dios. Por eso, aun siendo rey, buscaba guía. Oraba antes de actuar, reconocía sus límites. Cuando David falló, porque falló, no se justificó, no negó su error, no se escondió detrás de su cargo. Eso revela algo muy profundo. La verdadera grandeza no está en no caer nunca, sino en saber levantarse con honestidad. Psicológicamente, las personas que no reconocen sus errores suelen vivir en una tensión interna. Defienden una imagen, no una verdad. Eso los agota. David, en cambio, tenía un corazón enseñable. Podía ser confrontado, podía reflexionar, podía cambiar. Por eso Dios lo llamó un hombre conforme a su corazón. No porque fuera perfecto, sino porque era sincero. Hoy vivimos en una cultura que premia la imagen, la fuerza y la apariencia. Pero la vida espiritual nos recuerda que el orgullo puede destruir lo que la fe ha construido. Si quieres sostener lo que Dios te confíe en el futuro, cuida tu interior hoy. La humildad protege el corazón. La humildad da descanso a la mente. La humildad mantiene la conexión con lo esencial. David entendió que sin un corazón correcto, ninguna victoria vale la pena. Y ese entendimiento fue clave para sostener todo lo que vino después. David's story is not a straight line. It was not a constant ascent. It was a path with advances, setbacks, falls, and restorations. David was a shepherd, a fugitive, a warrior, a king, and he was also someone who made profound mistakes. And here appears one of the most important lessons of his entire life. God does not cancel a purpose because of an incomplete process. From a psychological perspective, this is key to emotional health. Many people condemn themselves for not being perfect. They judge themselves for past mistakes. They believe that a fall invalidates everything that came before. But spiritual life shows us something different. David failed, yes, but he did not stop seeking God. He did not close himself off. He did not harden his heart. He understood that sincere repentance is not humiliation. It is realignment. It is returning to the center. It is allowing God to restore what became disordered. God did not finish his work in David when he fell. God continued working. This teaches us that processes are not measured only by successes, but by the disposition of the heart. A heart that returns, a heart that learns, a heart that does not give up. Perhaps today, you also feel that your path has not been perfect, that you have made mistakes, that you have doubted, that you have felt weary. But that does not mean that God has finished with you. On the contrary, many times when we feel that everything is stalled, it is because something is still maturing within us. And what matures in silence often sustains lasting fruits. David was not defined by his worst moment. He was defined by his ability to return to God again and again. And that is a real hope for all of us. If you've made it this far, it's because this message has not only passed through your mind, but also through your heart. David's story was not told to be admired, but to accompany you in your own journey. David teaches us that not everything is resolved quickly, that true faith does not eliminate the path, but it does give it meaning. That God does not work in haste, he works with depth. Perhaps today you don't have all the answers. Perhaps you are still waiting for results. Perhaps the weariness is still present. But now you know something important. You are not failing, you are being formed. You are not behind, you are maturing. You are not alone, even if the path is silent. Spiritual life is not about rushing, but about walking with direction. And direction is built day by day, thought by thought, decision by decision. If at this time you feel the need to care for your mind, strengthen your faith, and maintain clarity as you go through your process, there is a way to do it calmly and consistently. Not as another pressure, but as conscious accompaniment. Here we continue to talk about faith, mind, and real processes. If this content resonated with you, continue on the channel. There are more messages designed to sustain you, guide you, and remind you that God is still working, even when you don't see it. Thank you for staying, thank you for listening, and remember, what today seems like waiting, tomorrow will be testimony.